Hi guys, so this is a video on your D9 Navamsha chart. We are going to be covering Venus through houses in D9 Navamsha chart. So you can see this is a chart that I have in front of me. So in this video, please do not pay attention to the signs because we are not going to cover Venus in signs. We are going to cover Venus through houses of your D9 Navamsha chart, right? So, before we begin, why exactly Venus is important and why exactly are we even discussing Venus in D9? So, you see, D9 is a chart which I've already told in many of my previous videos that whenever we're looking at your destiny, we look at your D9. Alright, D9 is something which you cannot escape. Now, it is, I know this is a heavy statement, but it basically means that D9 is going to show you what you are here for. It is something that you're destined for. All right. And even though D1 chart is the most important, before we even go into D9, I would always recommend that, if you're trying to learn astrology as well, and if you are here for learning how to predict marriage and everything, you need to first of all look at your D1 chart. Always. Okay. Do not jump directly to the D9 chart because D1 chart is extremely important, right? And once you are seeing the D1 chart, then move on to the D9 chart, right? Now, D9 chart definitely shows depths of your marriage, okay, the details of your marriage that is not very much visible in the D1 chart, all right. The D9 chart would show the true character of your partner, it would show how your marriage is going to transform your life. All right. And what is the karma? What is the karma that you're here for? What is exactly the fruit of this marriage? Like once you get married, you are triggering your Venus, right? Because Venus represents marriage, and this is for both the genders. Like it doesn't matter if you're a man, you're a woman. Doesn't matter. It's simple. When you get married, your Venus gets activated. Okay, now yes, for females we do look at Jupiter because Jupiter is the representation of your husband. It would show a part of your husband and what exactly would change in your life once your husband steps into your life. We are going to discuss that, but I mean, that is going to be a separate video because we're going to discuss like how Jupiter is impacting your life and what exactly Venus would hold in your life. Because remember, for anyone, Venus is the um, even the indicator, I would rather say, of marriage. Okay, like what exactly the marriage is going to bring in your life. So when you are looking at your D9 chart, Venus is the Atmakarak. Now, Atmakarak means basically, you can understand Atmakarak in simple languages, that Venus is the soul of your D9 chart. Okay, so if you want to see what is the fruit of this marriage, once you get married, what exactly this marriage is going to bring to you, how loved are you going to feel in this marriage? How are you going to change, especially if you're a woman watching this video and you are thinking that how exactly will this marriage change you, or how exactly will this marriage change your life? You need to check your Venus in your D9 chart, right? Venus is also the love that you receive within this marriage, okay? And for men specifically, this Venus is going to represent the condition of your wife, okay? And Venus in D9 in general, in nutshell, it would represent the condition and the foundation of your marriage. Okay, this is for both men and women, that it is going to show how this marriage is going to turn out. All right. And there are also ways that you can save your marriage if you activate your Venus in the right way. So we are also going to look into that aspect in D9. All right. But when we're looking at Venus, just looking at Venus in your D9 chart, and let's say Venus is there sitting in your very first house, okay, in your D9 chart. So the first thing that happens is that in order to save your marriage, see, I'm using the word save your marriage because I don't know what condition your D1 chart is in. Okay, I don't know what condition your seventh house of D9 chart is. Okay, you need to check your seventh house of the D1 chart and then see where it's going in the D9 as well to see exactly that how strong is the foundation of your partner, how strong is the foundation of your marriage, right? But because now we're looking at the D9 chart, starting with Venus in the first house, the best way that you can make your marriage work is always to keep yourself in a way where you feel beautiful. Okay, in a very simple way, I can make you understand that Venus is a planet that loves to take care of your own self. Okay, so if let's say you have Venus in the first house, well, actually, it's a good placement to have because this is a way when you feel that after you get married, you feel beautiful. Okay, you feel youthful, even though it might not show. Maybe you feel that you don't have the best fashion sense or whatever, but once you get married, it is seen on your face. People might even start recognizing that, you looked way prettier after marriage. Like, for all the people who have heard these things, that, you got way beautiful after marriage, or you started looking better, all of these people would somewhere have Venus impacting their first house in the D9 chart, or maybe their ascendant lord is conjunct Venus in the D9 chart. All right. So Venus in the first house of your D9 would also give you this thing that you would have this inner desire of marriage. Okay, and Venus in the first house of your D9. The best way, if let's say there's any problem that's there in your marriage, okay, the one thing that you can do with this Venus in the first house is to save your marriage. You need to work on your own self. Okay, whenever you're going out or whenever you're in your house, always keep yourself clean. Because this is actually where it's not just about saving your marriage, it's also about making the best of your marriage. If let's say you have a very strong seventh house, you have a decent seventh house, your seventh house lord is, let's say, in fifth house or whatever, like it's in a good position, and then you have Venus in the first house. Now you won't have a condition wherein you need to save your marriage, because your marriage would already be in a situation where it's conducive and it's going smooth. All right. But for anyone who wants to improve their marriage, who wants to improve the romance in the marriage, who wants to improve the quality of the marriage, you want to make the marriage more stable, then with the Venus in the first house, you need to put focus on how you're presenting yourself in the world. Because you see, Venus, whenever it's there in the first house, it's not just about your face, it's about your whole personality. The way you are, even this is not just about your physical appearance, but also your personality. Like, when you step out in the world with a Venus in the first house, you cannot be a couch potato. You cannot be a person who's not very social, someone who just likes to be in house. This is a person who should go out, who should, you know, interact with people, who should put, you should basically put yourself out there. Because with Venus in the first house, this is actually a place where you need to understand that the better you keep yourself, the better your marriage would work. And it's not like a direct link. This is just how planets work, because you need to trigger your Venus in order to make the best use of that Venus. And Venus represents marriage. So once you make your Venus channelized, your marriage gets better, right? So even the best results that you can see, if let's say you have Venus and Mercury in the first house, all right, or you have Venus in the first house, Mercury in the seventh house. Now this is a great yoga for getting liquid cash, okay. But now the thing is, you are married, so you've already activated the Venus, but you don't know why you're not exactly getting that liquid cash, why you're not able to get money. All right. So the best thing that you can do with Venus and Mercury is that make your life social, make your life the kind of a life wherein you visit a cafe once a week, you go out once a week. Because Venus and Mercury is that planet wherein you need to have fun, you need to have that element wherein you don't feel bored with your partner, you need to have conversations with your partner. And the more you do it, the more Venus is going to reward not just your marriage but also your financial condition. Because now you see how I'm trying to like make you understand that how Venus can be activated. Okay, and Venus in the first house is also someone who, like, this is a placement wherein you in your early life you would understand that it's not easy to maintain relationships. Okay, with Venus in the first house, you might actually have a tendency to overgive in relationships. Okay, even to over sacrifice, sometimes overly. You might feel that whatever you are doing, it's not being reciprocated. So there's also this element wherein your Venus in the first house of D9 would want you to balance that out. Because Venus, remember, Venus is not just about serving the other. Even though we relate Venus with devotion, but Venus is also about self love. It is about taking care of your own self as well. So when you have Venus in your first house, never neglect your own self, never neglect your own needs. If you feel that you have Venus in the first house, so all you should do is just serve the person in front of you and neglect yourself in that process, no, you're wrong. You are basically making your Venus weak. If you have Venus in the first house, always take care of your own needs as well. Spend money on yourself, because that is actually going to indirectly improve your marriage. All right. Now let's move to what is going to happen if, let's say, you have Venus in the second house. Venus in the second house is actually a very good placement to have, especially in your D9 chart. Because of the reason that when Venus is there in the second house, first of all, Venus really values the environment of stability, security, and family. So if you are someone that had a very rough childhood, or you did not enjoy that, sweet bond of family, you have that inner desire. Okay, you have that inner desire that you want that sweet loving home wherein you're coming back home and you feel stable, you feel safe. And with a Venus in second house of your D9, this is actually a very promising position. This can give you that sweet loving home environment. Especially, this is a kind of this is the placement wherein after marriage your whole focus would be about the family that you create with your spouse. It's like the family unit is very strong. Whenever I've seen Venus in the second house of your D9, there is this placement wherein you feel that um, there is this bond within the family which is very strong. Like it's the reason why you feel so grounded. Family becomes the reason why you feel stable in life. Okay, it's a very good position to have. And Venus in the second house can give you wealth. It can give you wealth, especially after marriage. Because remember, once your Venus is triggered, what is triggering your Venus? Venus is sitting in your second house, it is ready to give you wealth. But when? So, what do you do to trigger that Venus? You get married. All right. So, if let's say your spouse comes in your life, all right, now you feel that, okay, now my spouse is there, now I'm married, and once my spouse entered my life, okay, I felt that yes, my bank balance increased, wealth increased, you felt more stable in life. Okay, you felt more grounded in life. Okay, even your anxiety probably calmed down. Why? Because Venus is there in the second house, and Venus in the second house is it's a very stable position. It's a very solid position. Okay. Now, of course, if you have the first and the seventh house of, let's say, of your D9 chart, it's very it's in a axis where it's difficult, or if your D9, if your D1 seventh house is also in a difficult position, then of course there would be issues. However, Venus in the second house is a very good placement in itself. It's a very good placement, but we don't know what exactly is happening in your D1 seventh house. We don't know what's happening in your D9 chart first and seventh axis. We don't know. So we are only focusing at Venus in the second house. So Venus in the second house can give you amazing results. Okay. Then another thing, if let's say you're not married but you still want to trigger this Venus, you still want that wealth, then for that, the first thing that you see, Venus is there in your second house. That means to trigger that Venus, you need to improve your speech, the way you speak. It's like it's always better that you speak with a sense of melody, you speak with a sense of softness. Because even though this is Venus is representing your partner, but it is also your second house, right? So the way you speak is actually the way you attract money. And especially with Venus in the second house, you have great manifestation skills. There's this term, I think you should maybe look it up, search it up. It's called Vak Siddhi. It's like if you say something out loud, it would get fulfilled. So you have that. I mean, it depends on how strong your Venus is. We don't know how strong your eighth house is. Venus in the second house is capable of giving you good manifestation skills. But of course, you need to check how strong your Venus is and how strong the aspects on Venus is as well. Okay. Now, other thing you see with Venus in the second house, that you also feel very beautiful after marriage. Okay, especially because Venus in the second house is capable of giving you beauty and also your partner a very beautiful face. Especially if you're a man and you have Venus in the second house, this can actually give you a good looking partner, especially a partner who has a very pleasant appearance. Now, I know good looks is it's very subjective, but the appearance is going to be pleasant. It's going to look very charming. I have also seen for females this position, whenever the Venus is there in the second house, I have seen even women get good looking partners. Okay. But then again, you need to check your seventh house. You need to check what's there in the first house. Because if, let's say, there are certain planets which is negating this effect, then I mean that needs to be studied then. Because remember, whenever I'm talking about Venus in this video, please remember that I'm only talking about Venus alone. We are not looking at the signs, because then the video, I don't know how long the video is going to get then. So Venus in the second house, you need to see that for your marriage to work, it's always better to focus on the family that you create with your spouse. And also with Venus in the second house, there is a possibility that, if let's say you had a very rough childhood, I think I said this in the beginning, but I did not complete myself. If you had a rough childhood, um, you and your partner can be very fixated on creating a very solid and stable family together. And it usually comes out of a feeling that you never experienced that in your childhood, you never experienced that while growing up. So it's a desire that you have. It's a desire to have that family, to have that sweet bond within the family. Okay, so that's there. Another thing you'll also see with Venus in the second house, that it can actually give you a lot of power in your speech. Okay, it can give you a lot of power in your speech. It can give you the power of manifestation and even very sweet singing voice. Now, this is something which can actually happen with your partner as well. Like your partner can also have a very sweet voice. So this is something which I've observed. Maybe you and your partner can sing together. This is another thing that I've seen. And again, your partner, the moment your partner comes in, your ability to save increases. Okay, your ability to save increases, and usually the partner comes from a stable background, comes from a background where um, it's either the background is stable or the partner has that sense of managing finances. So that's another thing that you'll see with Venus in the second house. Now, Venus, whenever it's there in the third house, now you see communication becomes very important within the marriage. Anytime anything goes wrong in the marriage, the best advice that I can give to you is that if you have Venus in the third house of your D9 chart, it's always better that you should keep on taking short trips with your spouse. Doesn't matter if you are staying in a place where you feel that you can't go on a trip, or it's very difficult for you to take a trip with your partner, just go to a nearby cafe with your partner. Maybe if, let's say, you have a difficult time with your partner in the house or within the family environment, but the moment you go out with your partner, the moment you take a short trip with your partner, things would start working out. Things would just get settled. You had a problem with your partner, you had some issues with your partner, maybe there was an argument going on and it was just not getting settled. The moment you travel with your partner, things are just going smooth. And with Venus here in the third house, you should, specifically Venus being in the third house, you should focus on the communication of the marriage. Because this is a placement wherein you can get a lot of fun within the marriage. Especially being an active couple is something that is highly recommended. And you'll see, even if let's say you have, let's take an example. If, let's say, you have a first and seventh axis of the D9, which is not a very good placement, let's say it's in a difficult position, but you have Venus in the third house. The best thing that you do with your partner is you socialize. You have a same friend circle, and you'll see how much it improves your marriage, having the same friend circle. And this is also another thing that you'll see with Venus in the third house, that people would admire you as a couple. Even though, if, let's say, again, let's get back to an example wherein, let's say, you don't have the most best or the most comfortable seventh house, still people would think that, oh, this is a couple that is so well bonded, they're just so in tune with each other. So you'll always be getting the tag of, a very sweet couple, a couple that's very well bonded together. Okay. And this is also a place where your reputation after marriage, it it becomes more easygoing. I wouldn't say, because again, Venus does not represent the status It wouldn't represent status like Sun or Saturn, but Venus in the third house can make you and your partner very approachable. Like people would want to be around you. People would want to, look at you like, oh, this is such a happy couple. This is a very happy-go-lucky couple. Let me just, let's become friends with them. So like that. And you would attract a lot of friends with a position like this. And especially within the marriage, there can be a lot of flirting. But one thing you need to be careful with this Venus is that sometimes this can also bring in unnecessary or unwanted attention. Now, if you're a man, this can happen with the partner, this can happen with the spouse. Like your wife can attract unwanted attention at times. And of course, this is not, this is something which she cannot control, of course, but it's something that one needs to be careful of. Like, if even if, let's say, you're a female with this position, you can attract a lot of men, especially by the way you speak. It's like there's something about your speech. You speak, once you start speaking, it's like people would just want to listen to you. And this is usually because of the reason that the speech that you say, especially with Venus being in the third house, it's something that engages people. All right. So even you and your couple together, this is like a position where you are that couple that you would just want to be social. And it's a very good position for anyone who's, in the media or in the public eye, or if, you're a YouTuber. But again, one thing that you need to be careful of, whether you're a man, you're a woman, whatever, you need to understand that Venus in the third house can sometimes bring in uh, attention that you're not seeking. Okay, this is just Venus. I'm not saying that this is going to happen definitely, because we don't know what's happening in your seventh house. We don't know if this Venus is getting aspected by Saturn. Of course, if it's getting aspected by Saturn, then most of those things would actually be curtailed. Okay, so you need to check the whole scenario. This is just Venus alone in the third house. All right, now moving on to Venus in. Now, another thing you'll see with Venus in the third house, your relation with your siblings improve. Your ability to socialize improves. If, let's say, before marriage you were not a very social person, your ability to socialize once your partner comes in improves. Okay, and it's actually better with Venus in the third house. It's better to get a partner who is social. Okay, and the bond with siblings improve. And this is it's more like a community. Like, you create a community after marriage. It's like you have your partner, but at the same time, there are also certain friends that are very close to you, like just like a family. So that also happens. Now, one more thing I wanted to add for Venus in the second house, I had completely forgotten, so I'll just add it here. You also improve, because now that I mentioned about Venus in the third house and improving connections, you also improve connections with Venus in the second house. But that connection is going to be different from Venus in the third house. As I said, Venus in the third house can bring you that connection wherein you feel like you've created a community for yourself. Venus in the second house can make you give connections, but for a purpose that is related to money. Okay, especially you can get connected to people who are staying very far away from you, and maybe people who are from a very different culture, a very different religion, but you can get connected to them. You can get connected to them, and it is more to do with money, or it is more to do with your financial conditions. Okay, improving your financial condition. So this is something like Venus in the second house can bring you connections that would improve your financial condition, especially once your partner comes in. And with Venus in the second house, I've also seen people getting partners from different cultures. Okay, so if you're a man with Venus in the second house, or if you're a female with Venus in the second house, you can actually get a partner who lived in a very different culture than yours. Or maybe you have some ethnic differences. This can also be religious differences. It depends how your seventh house is there as well. But with Venus in the second house, you can expect certain connections that can come through your partner. Especially certain connections that are different, or maybe that is not very similar to your ethnic background. But all of these connections, it's not going to be a connection that is more like a family kind of connection, but it's more like a connection that would help you grow in your career, or maybe financially, right? So long distance connections can also come in your life with Venus in the second house. Now moving on to Venus in the fourth house. Now this is actually again a very good placement to have, because Venus feels very comfortable in the fourth house. But one thing you'll see with Venus in the fourth house is that there is going to be this sense of comfort that you feel within the house. And with Venus in the fourth house, it's always better to maintain family relations. Be it your own house, be it your partner's house, be it your own family. You should always, keep on meeting people. It's like, even if, let's say, you don't have the best bonds with them, but the moment they come to your house, the moment everyone does this get together at your house, things would just feel very smooth. Things do not feel as chaotic, because your Venus in the fourth house gives you this sense of stability and sense of security within the home. It makes you feel that fine. I am sitting in my home. I have a good big home. I have a luxurious home. And the moment there are people in your home, it becomes even more secure. Like with Venus in the fourth house, it's always better to, bring people to your home. Because with Venus in the fourth house, this is like a position wherein you feel more safe, you feel more grounded, you feel more secure once there are people at your house. And I've actually seen both. I've seen people staying as a nuclear family, I've seen people staying as a joint family as well. But the main concept over here is that the bond within the family is very secure. It's very harmonious. You feel that harmony within the house. And one thing you'll see with Venus in the fourth house, though, yes, you do get properties after marriage. The moment your partner comes in your life, you will see this ability that you are able to get more solid properties, like assets. Now, this can be, like a car being gifted, or the house that you stay in, it's very beautiful. You can actually have very antique collections in your house, and it's even beneficial for you. The more you beautify your house, the more you keep your house like a sacred temple, the more smooth your marriage becomes. And with a Venus like that, or with Venus being in the fourth house, now this can be a good thing or a bad thing, but I'll just say it regardless. It completely depends on your seventh house of your D9, but Venus being in the fourth house makes it very difficult for someone to get a divorce. Like, this is a position wherein you can actually have a very good marriage with Venus in the fourth house, wherein you enjoy that family, you enjoy that life. Okay, you enjoy the marriage, you enjoy being with people, you enjoy the atmosphere that you get in your house. So it's actually a very good placement to have. Now, again, because we are not talking about your seventh house of D9, we don't know what's going on in your seventh house of D9. We don't know how your seventh house of D1 is placed. We don't know how your Dharakarak is, right? So of course, there are multiple aspects that you need to check. But Venus in itself, all I know is that we are talking about Venus in the fourth house, right? So Venus in the fourth house alone has the potential to give you a good, happy marriage. Okay, and you feel secure. That's also the thing. Once you get married, you enjoy that marriage, you enjoy the art of staying at a place wherein there are people around you at your home. There are people who, someone is cooking and someone is, just chatting, and so you have that atmosphere at home where things are harmonious. Okay, and you feel stable, like your ability to enjoy this marriage feels stable. Because see, I'll tell you what, there are people who have a very, very good first and seventh axis. But the fourth house becomes very important. Because the fourth house is how stable you feel after your marriage. Fourth house is not just your home, it's also your center of stability. How grounded do you feel in life? Like, people can have a very good partner, they can have everything in life, but they always have that anxiety. They still have that anxiety. But with Venus in the fourth house, you feel grounded, you feel stable after marriage. So this is actually a very good position to have. And especially if you have elder sisters or if you have elder siblings, especially females, you can get benefited from them. Now, this can be from both of your sides, like this can be from your side or this can be from your spouse's side. You can get certain gifts. Now, this can be from your family or this can be from your partner's family, but there is this element of people bringing things to your house. This can be a gift, this can be, like a showpiece, but something to beautify your house. And usually with Venus in the fourth house, the partner also comes from a background where they cherish family values. Okay, they want family values, they do want that stability within the house. Okay, and with Venus in the fourth house, now this can also give you, I mean, it depends on the condition of Venus, but Venus in the fourth house can give you a very beautiful home. It can give you um, some house helps as well. And especially with the Venus in the fourth house, if there are house helps that come to your house, always treat them with respect. Always treat them with respect. Okay? Especially females. And if you're a man who has Venus in the fourth house of your D9 chart, um, your partner, especially the wife that you get, can be someone who's who has that element of taking care of the home very well. And it's actually very difficult. I don't know why people, it's something which is very underrated. I feel like taking care of the home is such a big task because there are different people, there are different mindsets, but then bringing it all together and making it harmonious is a very big task. But your wife can do that very naturally. Even if you're a woman, if you're a female, if you're a woman with a placement like this, your partner can have good family values. Your partner can be the one who would, like if let's say there's this argument going on in the house, but your partner would make you understand that it's all right. There are times when you need to do certain things so that harmony is being maintained in the house. So that's also there. Okay. Now moving on to Venus being in the fifth house. Is there in the fifth house. Now, this is a position where if, let's say, you get a daughter after marriage, your luck rises. I have seen, now this is this is a position where I've seen people do way better, okay, after they got married. Like let's say before marriage, you were just doing average in life, okay. But once you got married, once your wife came in, okay, once your husband came in, your life, especially the amount of enjoyment in your life, the amount of happiness in your life, it increased. Your happiness in life, and especially your ability to earn money also increases, especially after you get a daughter. Like this is a position wherein childbirth becomes very important. I mean, of course, it's something that it's completely up to you, and definitely it's also something which your partner also needs to be seen. Like the chart of your partner also needs to be seen. But just if let's say we're just looking at Venus in the fifth house, this is a position where once your child is born, especially if let's say you get a female child, you reach new level of success. Probably let's say let's take an example. You were probably um, a, someone working in the bank and you were doing good, you were doing fine in life. But once you got married, things happened and certain things changed. But now you left that job. Whatever you were doing, you left that job. But now you started doing something else. And this job pays you 10 times better. This is what happens. And even even if let's say you didn't change job, you didn't do anything, but something happened. The moment your child was born, you got a promotion and now you're earning better. Okay, so there is this phase where I've seen with Venus in the fifth house that the struggle, especially the struggle around money, ends. Okay, so this is actually a very good position to have. And with Venus in the fifth house, of course, there is romance within the marriage. There can be romance within the marriage. Again, now you need to check. You need to check your seventh house of your D9 chart. You need to check what is the aspect of on this Venus. What exactly is influencing this Venus. But with Venus in the fifth house, you can feel that love within the marriage. You enjoy the marriage. Okay, because fifth house, actually, you know what? With fifth house Venus, one more thing that you will see is that fifth house is the house of, um, things that you enjoy doing. That is why we relate fifth house with hobbies. Okay, things that you enjoy doing. All right, and fifth house with Venus being in the fifth house, it's always better to be engaged with your spouse. Do some or the other hobby with your spouse. If let's say there is any problem within the marriage, you feel that the marriage is not doing well, whatever, the moment you do certain thing with your spouse, especially a shared interest, if let's say you like the idea of swimming and your partner also enjoys swimming, so once a week you both go for this hobby, you both go for swimming, or twice a week, you would see your marriage improving. You would drastically see your marriage improving, because the moment you do certain thing with your spouse, you would feel that all right, the marriage was stuck, but now the marriage is improving. And with Venus in the fifth house, again, a very good position for traveling with your spouse. Why? Because fifth house is what? It's actually the it's basically third from the third house, right? So traveling with your spouse definitely becomes very important. The moment you travel with your spouse, there are things that things would just fall into place. Okay, things get right. So if you're struggling within the marriage, it's always better to have communications with your spouse. It's always better to travel with your spouse. And especially with Venus in the fifth house, the communications can be very beautiful. You can have romance within the marriage. You can have, a lot of um, flirtations within the marriage. So it's a good position to have. But definitely, one thing that you need to be careful of is always check your seventh house in the first house. I've actually seen people, there are certain comments, and I feel that this is the reason I always tell people that whenever I cover any topic, whenever I cover any planet, I would always tell that I am only focusing on this planet. Of course, it is going to be different if Saturn is going to aspect. It is going to be different if Venus is getting aspected by Mercury. It is going to be different if, let's say, your seventh house has Sun and Saturn conjunct. It's going to be different, right? So, to study the entire thing, you need to look at the entire chart. Okay, but I am telling you the foundational level. Of course, it is going to be, the intensity is going to be different for anyone. Okay, so maybe for, if let's say you have a stable seventh house, now you're looking at your fifth house, this video can be very, true, probably up to like 90%. This video could help you up to probably 80%, 90%. This can be very accurate for you. But if let's say you have a different position, you have Venus getting aspected, you have Venus and Rahu and Ketu axis, then definitely this video, of course, the certain things would be true, but the intensity would be lesser. All right. So the intensity differs. It differs as per the aspects that you have. It differs as per the conjunctions in your seventh house. All right. Now Venus in the sixth house. Now you see, Venus in the sixth house is a position where actually you will attract a partner who is, um, someone who actually has this ability of loving the unprivileged. Like someone who's very devoted to animals, someone who's very devoted to any unprivileged person. Like probably your partner is the one who donates to old age home, who donates money, or who donates certain things to orphanages. Okay, because this is a position where you can attract someone who is actually a very sweet person. However, they can be accused of certain things wrongly in their life. Okay, so this is a position, especially if let's say you are a man, you can get a partner who could have been accused of certain things wrongly. Now this is not something big, this can be a very minute thing. Okay, again, depending on the intensity, this can be something very minute. Okay, but you need to take care of your partner's health with a position like this, because Venus in the sixth house is like, it's more like a karmic situation coming back. And no, it's not completely bad. Please don't feel that this Venus is completely bad. No, Venus in the sixth house can actually give you a partner who is very selfless in the way of giving. Like sometimes they can be selfless to the level where they actually do not take care of their own self. Like someone who is so giving. And this is something which you'll also see with Venus in Virgo. If let's say you have Venus conjunct Ketu or Venus in Virgo in your D9 chart, please tell your partner to take care of your own self. Take care of their own self. Tell them, because they have this ability to, probably they would just neglect their own self. And that would be done not because they're too busy in their career or whatever. They would neglect their own self because of some other things or because of some other people. Okay. So with the Venus being in the sixth house, even because this is your Venus as well, so you can be someone who's very giving. You can also be, you can be someone um, who's very devoted to certain cause. Okay, a cause to serve animals, a cause to serve the unprivileged. Okay, you can have this bitter feeling about love. I've seen this. Like a lot of people who have Venus in the sixth house, they probably think of love as something very painful. you know so that is also one thing that I've seen, just an approach that they have towards love. Okay, and if you're a female, you have Venus in the sixth house, this does represent you as well, that you would want to serve people. You would want to serve animals. And with the Venus being in the sixth house, it's actually a very good cause. If you are serving someone unprivileged, you are basically getting rid of the karmic backlog that you're holding. So Venus in the sixth house and you trying to serve someone, you trying to serve the unprivileged, serving animals, or you're serving anyone who you believe has a right to be served, but they're not served. Like anyone who's unprivileged. That actually makes you feel calm. That makes you feel have a purpose in life. Okay. And Venus in the sixth house can also, because I said it can give a bitter feeling in love. So there is a possibility that either you or your partner can have some harsh experiences early on in life. And it can be something to do with love. Now, again, this is not necessarily romantic love, this can be in any form. So there is this bitter feeling to love. Okay. But again, remember, as I said, intensity differs. Okay. And Venus in the sixth house in itself can actually show that you need to focus on your health as well. Okay. And if you're a man, you have this position, make sure that you are taking care of your partner's health. Venus in the sixth house can give you a partner which will feel very destined. Okay. Because sixth house, actually, you know what, whenever Venus is there in the sixth house, it's like a karmic connection coming back. And no, please don't get panicked. Oh my god, like karmic connection. We all are connected with everyone because of our karmas, okay? That is a fact. But Venus in the sixth house, this is like a position wherein, let's take an example to make things better. I think that way maybe I can make you understand it better. If let's say you don't have any wish to get married, okay, with Venus in the sixth house, but then you just found that one person, okay, and you felt something, and you just know that this person is meant for you. This can happen with Venus in the sixth house. And then you get married. Okay? So you getting married because you strongly felt that there was a purpose. There was a purpose, there was this inner calling that happened. And then you just got married. And marriage can actually happen very early also. I mean, early as in, if let's say, as I said, like let's say you did not want to get married and it was already like, probably for years you were being forced by your parents that you should get married, but you had thought that you don't want to get married. But then you found this one person, you met this one girl, you met this one boy, and you felt something. You felt that yes, there is something. You just felt that instant connection. And within months, you got married. So that can happen. Okay, with Venus here. And again, there is one more thing that is attached to this Venus. As I said, getting wrongly accused of something. It is something that you can need to be careful of. Okay, so you might be very cautious around the opposite gender. I have actually seen people, you know, actually having a good married life also, with Venus being in the sixth house. Of course, the purpose is very different. I've seen couples being very devoted towards a cause. I've seen couples being very devoted, like they probably every weekend they visit this orphanage and they donate something. They spend time with the children in that orphanage. So there is this cause that connects you and your partner. There's another thing that I wanted to say with Venus in the sixth house, that there can be separation. Well, this is a controversial thing to say, okay? Because with Venus in the sixth house, I've actually seen people have marriages. Like, I've seen people getting married and I've seen people maintaining that marriage. See, just because your Venus is there in the sixth house does not mean that it's going to give a divorce or it's going to give a separation. No, it simply comes down to the multiple aspects that I've always talked about. Look at your first house, look at your seventh house. Where is your seventh house Lord? So you need to check different things as well. Okay, you need to check your D1 chart, you need to check the seventh house of your D1 chart. And also they can be very good writers also. I've actually seen people being very good writers, and just someone who probably has some kind of concept in love which not everyone can understand. Sometimes I've also seen people attract partners who do not understand the concept of reciprocal love. Like, you love someone but you don't expect certain things in return. And probably, or this can just mean that they have been a part of that. Maybe they have faced a situation wherein they were just giving, and they were just not receiving anything. Okay, that can also be there. But yes, another one more thing I would again say with Venus in the sixth house: take care of your health and your partner's health. This is very important. Health can be a major concern. Okay, because again, this is one thing I've seen. More than divorce and separation, I have seen Venus in the sixth house, health being a very major concern. Okay, so always try to take care of your health and your partner's health. And no, this is not to do with just the wife or just the husband. This has to do with both the genders. Okay. Now, Venus in the seventh house, again, a very good placement for getting fame after marriage. Okay, fame after marriage, getting recognition after marriage, and especially Venus in the seventh house, you can get a partner. The moment that your partner comes in, you become more social. Okay, the moment your partner arrives in your life, you want to meet new people, you want to be out, you want to go out and hang out with your partner and actually make friends with your partner. Okay, and Venus in the seventh house, again, a good placement for attracting business opportunities, especially if, let's say, you and your partner do certain joint business. Very good position for that. Okay, and your partner, the ability that your partner has, your partner can actually be a very diplomatic person. Your partner can be a very good negotiator, someone who gets the right deal. So that's why I said, like, the moment your partner comes in, you get better business opportunities, you get better contracts in life. Actually, both. You get better contracts, and even you get better contacts in life. One thing that you need to check with Venus in the seventh house, there can be certain aspects of jealousy, possessiveness, because of the reason that there is going to be attraction. See, there is going to be chemistry. Okay, with Venus in the seventh house, there is going to be chemistry within the marriage. Okay, but because Venus is there in the seventh house, Venus would always want you to take care of the marriage. So the marriage is going to be the center of attention in your life. Okay, so your partner and you can sometimes butt heads, you can sometimes have this minor bickerings, constant bickerings. Okay, but you would always find a way back to each other. Okay, so with Venus in the seventh house, it's like Venus wants you to work towards the marriage. Okay, this is very simple. Like, whenever Venus is there in the seventh house, you need to work towards the marriage to make the marriage work. Simple. Because Venus is there in the seventh house. So as much as people think that, okay, Venus is there in the seventh house, so things are just gonna get settled without you doing any efforts. No, with Venus in the seventh house, a person actually naturally wants to put efforts, towards their relation, towards their marriage or whatever. And even you can get a partner who likes that attention, who likes that, the idea of having that social extroverted life with the partner. Okay, you would want the marriage to be in limelight, and probably with a position like this, you actually can be called a very good couple, like a very popular couple. I've seen a lot of people being this popular couple or being like an ideal couple in the public eye. Okay, and you're constantly making the marriage work. See, it's like with Venus in the seventh house, you always put efforts towards the marriage. And this is, again, this is like with Venus in the seventh house, there are certain things which you just know naturally, that with Venus in the seventh house, you would want to take your partner out because, you feel that yes, your partner loves shopping. And with Venus in the seventh house, that okay, in order to keep her happy, I need to take her out shopping every week. And it's something which you would do willingly. Okay, so basically, Venus in the seventh house, you would want to take care of the needs of your partner, and even your partner. Your partner can be someone who can actually be very good looking. Can be very good looking, can be someone um, who brings this element of romance in your life. Okay, but yes, having that extroverted life, having that life wherein you are getting social with people is something I've also observed with Venus in the seventh house. And there are also issues that you need to take care of with Venus in the seventh house. There can be certain issues with jealousy, there can be certain issues with possessiveness. Now, again, the intensity would be different, okay? Now, if let's say you have Moon and Venus in the seventh house, then your partner would be someone who would want your attention. They would want your attention, they would want your love. Like with Venus and Moon in the seventh house, you are attracting a sensitive partner, you are attracting a romantic partner. And if you say something mean or if you say something harsh to them, they are going to feel bad. They are not going to be like, oh, okay, let's just forgive and, let's just move on. No, they would feel bad and they would take their time, you know, they would want you to come to them and apologize. So that can happen, because again, Venus in the seventh house is like your marriage takes a lot of your time. Okay. Takes a lot of your time, and your partner would be someone you know, who needs assurance, who needs your time, who needs your attention. So with Venus in the seventh house, the best way that you can attract money, or the best way that you can attract um, a stable marriage is actually to give attention to your spouse's needs and desires. Okay, and even with Venus in the seventh house, you yourself can actually be a very attractive person. Because see, you have Venus in the seventh house in your D9, so it's showing the ability that you have the ability to attract people towards you. Okay. And no, this does not necessarily have to be romantic. This just in general, you have this ability to attract people towards you. People would want to come to you. People would want to come and talk to you. They would want to come and do business with you. So if let's say you are into business, or if let's say you want a life like that, it can actually be a blessing. Because in that way, you can attract a lot of customers to your business. So this can be a very beneficial position. Okay. And I've seen very romantic positions. I've seen romantic proposals with Venus in the seventh house. And people who do have their disagreements, but they come back to each other. They come back to harmonize it. Right? So, in a nutshell, it's a good position. But one more thing, one important thing that you'll see, Venus in the seventh house can teach you lessons when it comes to love and relationships. Okay. Sometimes there is this balance that needs to be assured. Because Venus, when it's there in the seventh house, see, Venus is getting overly strong. Even though one part of it, I did explain the good part of Venus being in the seventh house, but there's also this flip side to it. With Venus in the seventh house, you see, it's too much of Venus energy in the seventh house. See, imagine the seventh house of people, of harmony, and you're putting Venus again. So it's like you're putting the master of that house in that house. Venus being in the seventh house is like ultimate Venus energy. And Venus is not just about romance and love. Don't forget the innate nature of Venus. Venus is a teacher. Venus is that guru, Shukracharya, right? So Venus is that guru. So it is going to always teach you lessons about relations. You always think about lessons. You always think about giving more. Are you giving more? You always think about balancing the relations. So it's always like some days you are giving more, some days you are not reciprocating. So there is this balance that you would always try to keep and maintain in the relation. And that's there because Venus is there in the seventh house. It is going to give you lessons through marriage, lessons through relations, lessons through business and partnership deals. And of course, it's going to be for your betterment because Venus is there in the seventh house. So it's not going to ruin the nature of the seventh house. It's not going to ruin it. But of course, it is going to protect its own house. However, it can sometimes be too much about learning the lessons. There is a good part of Venus in the seventh house, which I already explained. Yes, you're going to have that attractive spouse, you're going to have that marriage, you're going to have that ideal couple reputation. You are going to, as a couple, when you both come in, people would want to watch you, people would want to look at you. You have that romance, but there is balance that needs to be there in the marriage. There is this lesson wherein you need to learn within the marriage, that are you giving too much or are you receiving too much? And this can be something which you have struggled through your probably early life as well. Maybe in early days, or when you were younger, you would give too much. Or maybe you have been in situations wherein you were just receiving and you were not giving anything. Maybe you expected too much from the other person, and then probably you realized it later that you are just taking and not giving anything in return. Okay, so there is this aspect that Venus wants to teach you, that there needs to be balance. So you need to give, but you also need to receive. Things would not work if you just keep on giving, or things would not work if you just keep on receiving. So you are always trying to, balance the way out and trying to maintain your relations with people. Your life would actually revolve around making relations with people and making balanced relations with people, maintaining relations with people. So if, let's say, you are into business or you are into dealing with the public, this is actually a very good placement. Because with this Venus, you actually can eventually become a very diplomatic person. So for business point of view, this can actually be a very good position. Okay, so these are the two sides to this Venus that I told you already. Let's move to the 8th house. Okay, now Venus in the 8th house. Now this is where it gets interesting. Now you see, Venus being in the 8th house is actually a very interesting position because the moment your partner comes into your life, a big change happens in your life. Okay, you probably, like let's take an example. Let's say you did not like the idea of going to foreign lands. Okay, you wanted to stay in your home country. You had already thought that you do not want your life, or you do not want uh, you know um, your life to be spent in any other country. But once your partner comes in, your thought process changed. You are now living your life in some foreign country, which before marriage you had never even thought of. So some element of shake-up happens once your partner comes in your life. And this can actually also mean that your partner can actually enter your life when you are going through a difficult time. Maybe you just had a massive, transformation in life, or something just happened, like a big moment happened in your life, which um, was not very easy to deal with. Now, I don't want to scare anyone. This can be a minor inconvenience as well. Okay, maybe it was just an end of a relation. Maybe it was an end of a job situation. Maybe you just left a job. You thought that this job is not serving you, so you just left that job. So you are in that transitional period, and that is when you meet your partner. Okay, or you just ended that relation. Okay, and then you met your partner. So your partner, the moment your partner comes in your life, there can actually be some changes that happen in your life. Actually, some major changes. Okay. And the good part is, with Venus in the 8th house, this change can actually help you a lot. This change can help you become a better version of yourself. Okay, because as much as you think that, oh, Venus is there in the 8th house, well, no, Venus actually holds the energy of 8th house. Because you see, Venus does represent transformation. It does represent that Sanjeevani power. And what is Sanjeevani power? It's actually, making the dead alive again. So Venus has that power. So if you think that Venus in the 8th house, Venus cannot deal with, the 8th house energy. No, Venus can deal with 8th house energy. It's rather Moon. Moon cannot deal with 8th house energy. Venus has that strength to deal with the chaos of the 8th house. And what is 8th house? 8th house is that transformation, right? And especially with 8th house in the Navamsha, you will see in your D9 Navamsha chart, you'll see that your partner's family, your in-laws, they can actually be someone who are very supportive to you. Okay, they can actually be very well off as well. And you're able to accumulate wealth with your partner, with Venus in the 8th house. And there is some secrecy within the marriage. Okay, there is some secret within the marriage. Okay, and I feel with Venus in the 8th house, it's always better to keep your marriage private. Okay, don't show your marriage to the entire world. Don't portray to the entire world that we are doing this and we are doing that, and constantly posting on social media. No, because with Venus in the 8th house, I've actually seen people attract evil eye. I have seen. So it's better that you always keep your marriage private, and you can have a very good bond with your partner, because you remember, the 8th house is not just the house of sexual intimacy. 8th house is also the life of your marriage. 8th house does represent your longevity of the married life. So Venus in the 8th house can actually show that you can go through massive transformations through this marriage. There can be sudden ups and downs in the marriage, there can be sudden changes in the marriage, but you're able to overcome that. Okay. But yes, Venus in the 8th house can give you some of the other, sometimes it can give you some scandals. Okay, it can sometimes give you scandals, or even some kind of allegations, or something to do with your character or the character of your partner. But again, this is only something which is not going to be true for everyone, because we don't know what's happening with Venus. Now, Venus can be conjunct Rahu, Venus can be conjunct some other planet, right? And Venus in the 8th house can also give you this intimacy within the marriage. Okay, like intimacy becomes a very, very, very important part within the marriage. See, anytime you feel that your marriage is not working or whatever, the moment you feel that intimacy with your partner, the moment you get intimate with your partner, especially physical intimacy, it is going to be very, very deep. It's not like just regular physical intimacy. It's just something which is very deep, like you both feel it very deeply. Okay, so, and Venus in the 8th house can sometimes, yes, there can be jealousy issues, there can be possessiveness issues, there can be secrecy within the marriage, there can be some secrets kept within the marriage. Okay, this can happen. So I already said the scandals part, but it is something which is not always true. Probably it's just something which you do not want the world to know. There can be certain things which people might question. Now, if let's say, um, now for the scandal part also, the part that I said, there can be some secrets within the marriage. Okay, and this is not something necessarily bad. Now, this can be two-way. Okay, now this can be some secrets are kept within the marriage, or there can be some secrets that are basically kept from the outside world. Okay, like for example, you marry someone which can put you in a controversial position. Okay, maybe you get married to someone which people do not take in a very good light, and then people start making some rumors about you. So in order to save you, in order to save yourself, in order to save your marriage, in order to save your partner, because you do not want any rumors to be made, because there is some secrets that do have to happen. Okay, but again, the intensity is going to be different, the situation is going to be different. I'm just giving an example. All right, now let's move on to Venus in the 9th house. Now you see, Venus in the 9th house again is a position where your luck rises massively after marriage. I've actually seen people become very different versions of themselves once they get married with Venus in the 9th house. You can, continue something which you wanted to do before marriage but you could not do. So you can continue that. However, there's another aspect to Venus in the 9th house. When Venus is there in the ninth house, you actually feel the sudden rise of luck. Once your partner comes in your life, once you get married, you feel your luck has changed. Okay, so if you were living a very average life, before marriage, let's say you you were just living your life, like just a regular employee. Once you got married, you got a car. Then after a few years, you you know you got another car, and your partner already, the moment your partner came in, you already got a you already built a house with that person. So it's like, with Venus in the ninth house, this actually has the potential to give you a lot of rise after marriage, a lot of luck after marriage. And especially with Venus in the ninth house, it's always better to have some devotion towards a female goddess or a female guru. Like, some female becomes a very, very important part of your life. Especially if, let's say, you are a man, okay, and you have Venus in your ninth house. It's kind of like a saying that I would actually say that, think of your partner as Lakshmi with Venus in the ninth house, and you're a man. You should think of your partner as a Lakshmi. The moment she comes in your life, you will get things that you probably thought you'll never get. Okay? If, let's say, you did not get any, financial support from your family, and you were just by yourself, but your wife comes in, and it's not going to be like, of course, it's not going to be like sudden, like within a year everything changed, but gradually, I mean, of course, if, let's say, Venus is being aspected by Saturn or Jupiter or whatever, gradually, but you would see that luck rise. Like, after 5 years, after 7 years, you've built everything of your own. You have like a big house, you have um, this car, this dream car or whatever. So I have seen Venus in the ninth house give really good results. But that's there. One thing that is attached to Venus in the ninth house is that this is actually good karma coming back to you. Okay, you did some good, very good past life karma, and it is coming back to you in the form of a female. And this can, of course, this, if, let's say, you're a female and um you have Venus in the ninth house, you are very lucky for your partner. The moment your partner comes in your life, see, because Venus does represent marriage. Okay, at the end of the day, Venus is the representation of your marriage. Okay, and Venus in the ninth house, the moment your partner comes in your life, okay, you feel that, now I feel more stable. I feel like my luck has just, risen through this marriage, because you also are being represented by this Venus. So even though it's just your energy, but the moment your partner comes in, now that Venus is triggered, you feel that you have things that you earlier could not have. Okay, and it's always better with Venus in the ninth house. You should actually have this devotion, or you probably even develop this devotion towards a female goddess. Okay, can be Parvati, can be Durga, can be any female goddess, or even a female guru. Okay, a very good position to have that. And even after you get married, you'll see that some females in your life would come as a blessing. Okay, they might actually, it's not necessary that every female that comes in your life would have some romantic angle to it. It's just simple. Like, probably a female guru comes in your life, or you start following this guru that you see, and you feel that you just feel connected. And there's this thing, like, the moment you start doing rituals, the moment you start doing things that that female guru has said, things just turn out in your favor. So that can happen. All right. And with Venus in the ninth house, I have also seen, in some cases, um, yes, taking pilgrimage trips with your partner can be very beneficial. Okay, because this is, again, Venus in the ninth house is actually a position where, um, like, good karma is coming back to you. So that's one thing. And if you are a female, with Venus in the ninth house, I think the best way I can put it in words is that the more your partner respects you, the more financial benefits he gets in life. And it's not just about, it's not just about you and your partner. It's like the more you and your partner respect females in life, the more progress, the more abundance you get in life. And it's not just respect, okay, I should respect females so that I get money in life. No, your intentions do get registered. Okay, the genuine respect. The more you respect females, the more prosperity you get in life. All right, let's move to Venus in the 10th house now. Now, Venus in the 10th house. Now, you see, Venus in the 10th house again is a position when you and your partner together are involved in any of the things outside, outside your house. Whenever you are doing anything out there in the public, you would actually be seen as a very powerful couple. You're always, you're always considered that this couple is very well bonded. So the reputation of marriage actually increases. When you are there with your partner, your reputation increases. Okay, and this is actually a very good position for you to work with your partner. Even if, let's say, you both have very different jobs, you have different professions, you still, if, let's say, you're staying in a colony, okay, and that colony has to, do some things wherein they require people, you should collectively work. Do some or the other work in the outside world together. And you see how your reputation in your career, your reputation of the marriage, the way you're considered as a couple, it increases. Okay, but definitely one thing you'll see that there can be, like, now this is something again you need to check your 7th house, your 4th house, but there is work life balance that you need to establish, because Venus is now in the 10th house. Okay, and Venus is not very comfortable in the 10th house. Okay, so even though as a couple, yes, being social, being extroverted, hanging out together is something which is highly recommended. Okay, I feel like the best solution that I can give to you here is that if there is issue that you feel, especially the work life balance can be an issue. Maybe sometimes you feel that you require your time is being required at in your house, but then your work is also requiring it. So there is this issue that happens. Okay, that 4th and the 10th house axis does create this issue. However, the more you are engaged with your partner outside your house, the better your things in the house work. Now, however, the more you are engaged with your partner in the outside world, things go smoother in your house. Things go smoother in your home environment. Okay, so with Venus in the 10th house, if, let's say, you're trying to discuss the important things in your house, in your bedroom or in your kitchen, you probably would not find the right solution. But the moment you go out, the moment you sit in this park or the moment you sit in this cafe and you discuss things, you'll see that you get the right solution. And probably you won't fight when you are sitting there in the outside world. Okay. So with Venus in the 10th house, always, being active with your partner is very important. And especially being active with your partner with the affairs of the outside world. Actually, with Venus in the 10th house, this is the kind of a couple, like if you have Venus in the 10th house, um, you can actually get a very workaholic partner. You can get a very workaholic partner. And you are the kind of a couple that when you go out, you can actually do a very good counseling to some other couple. Okay, you are that kind of a couple. So the more helpful you are, the more invested you are in the outside world, the better your own relationship gets. Okay, and no, I don't mean to say this in a way that your own relationship would be constrained. No, what I mean to say is that we don't know what's happening in your 7th house. We don't know how your 4th house is. Okay, we don't know where exactly the 7th house lord is. So with Venus in the 10th house, I'm just giving a solution to a problem which could exist if, let's say, your 7th house is not well placed. Okay, so if you already have a problem, let's say you have 1st and the 7th axis where Rahu Ketu is present, or 7th house lord is in not a very good position, just looking at the 10th house Venus is where you can put efforts in to make your marriage work. And this is actually the purpose of this video. I am actually making this video so that people will understand that how exactly you can make your marriage work. Okay, And Venus in the 10th house, it's always better to be engaged in each other's profession. Okay, in some way or the other. I'm not saying that engaged is like being engrossed completely, but knowing that what exactly happened at your workplace, how was your day, how are you dealing with certain things, and what is the decision that you took. If let's say there is a call for promotion, now it's on you if you should take that call or not. Or if let's say there is something that you would want to sit for, there is a job offer that has come to you, and now you're confused if you should sit for the interview or not. Maybe you've been shortlisted, and the best thing that you can do with a position like this, discuss with your partner. Anything to do with your career, anything to do with your aspirations, your goals, you should discuss it with your partner. Okay? And the best thing that you can do here is that be a social couple. Be in the outside world, be extroverted. And with actually, and with Venus in the 10th house, actually, you can have a lot of mutual friends as well. You can have mutual friends. Okay? And the reputation goes up. Your reputation increases after you get married. And even you start enjoying your work life. After your partner comes in your life, you enjoy your work life. You enjoy that idea of working with people, working around people. Even people start liking you more. It's like people start liking you more in your workplace. Probably after you got married, you switched to a different work location, and you find the right kind of people. You actually have the potential to meet very long lasting connections in your work area after you get married. All right. And people would want to be in your company. Okay, this is actually a position where people want to be around you. People would want to come up to you and discuss their problems with you. Okay. See, Venus in the 11th house actually is very capable of giving you your wishes fulfilled. Okay. And especially you and your partner can have very shared goals. Okay, you can have certain wishes that you would want to desire, you would want to achieve together. Like probably, let's say, it was in your mind that you wanted a house with a backyard, or you wanted a house with a garden. Okay, and then you discuss it with your partner, and your partner is like, even I have the same vision. I also want a house with a garden, or like a house with a backyard. And now you both are collectively working for it, and you both are sitting down and planning for it. So this is a position where the more work towards your desires, the more happy the marriage gets. Okay. And the moment your partner comes in, actually, the moment your partner comes in, you are able to enjoy things in life. You are able to feel that you have achieved certain things, or you have finally gotten the things that you had desired for. Especially if you're a man and you have Venus in the 11th house, your partner can actually be the one who helps you achieve certain things in life. You can get your wishes fulfilled after your partner steps into your life. And with a position like this, I've actually seen people getting married with someone from their friend circle. I've seen people, getting actually connections also, very good connections after marriage. You probably get into certain connections which help you achieve certain things in life. And with Venus in the 11th house, the more you fulfill the desires of your wife, the more you'll be able to have a happy and financially stable life. Now think about it, because Venus is your wife. Okay, Venus, even though yes, we do look at Venus as the partner in general, but specifically if you're a man and you have Venus in the 11th house, your wife's desires become this portal. Like once you fulfill the desires of your wife, your desires somehow get fulfilled. And then if let's say you are a woman, okay, and you have Venus in the 11th house, then again, there's like this high possibility that after your partner comes and after you get married, you get very fixated on achieving the pleasures of life. You want your desires to be fulfilled. Now, we are actually not talking about the the needs of life. We're talking about the wants. Needs is the basic. Okay, so like after you get married, you already have the needs. Okay, you have the basic needs of life, but now you are stepping a step further. Okay, you're going a step further now. After you get married, you go to this further step wherein you wish to achieve the things that you wanted in life. And your partner somehow helps you achieve it. Even if, let's say, they're not helping you directly, it's just the triggering of Venus. Because now that you're married, your Venus gets triggered. Now that you're getting married, now that you have your partner in your life, you're able to achieve the things that you wanted. Why? Because your Venus got triggered. And your Venus is getting triggered by getting married or by the fact that your partner just came into your life. Alright? So that happens. And again, a very good position for anyone to go out, to have fun, especially with the Venus in 11th house. It's always better to go out. The more you go out with your partner, the more you hang out with your partner like a friend, the more you discuss with your partner, like a even like a colleague, like someone who would just discuss about their goals, their aspirations, and you're just sitting down and you're trying to make a plan on how to achieve it. It is going to come true for you. So Venus in 11th house can actually give you a lot of abundance. It can give you wealth, it can give you abundance. And you need to just make sure that this Venus is in a position where it's able to give you that. Because Venus has the ability to fulfill your desires. But how is this Venus being impacted is what we need to check. Right? So again, the intensity is going to be different. I'm just telling you the foundational level. That this is what is going to happen with Venus in the 11th house. That your luck rises, your desires gets achieved. Okay? Your luck rises and your desires do get achieved. Okay? However, the intensity is going to be different. Okay, if Venus is getting aspected by Mercury, it's going to be different. Venus is getting aspected by Saturn. Yes, it's going to be late, but it's going to be solid. All right? It's going to be stable. All right? So you see, it's going to be different. And having mutual friends also is something that can be very common with Venus in the 11th house. All right? Now let's move on to having connections that help you in the long run. Okay, probably once your partner comes in your life, you get into certain connections that help you a lot. Okay, help you to the level where initially you were just not getting the right people to help you with the projects or with the plans that you had in mind. But once your partner comes in, you get in touch with the right people. Now, Venus in the 12th house. Now, you see, Venus in the 12th house is again a very interesting position. Venus being in the 12th house is like you are attracting a partner who is a little different. Okay, it's a little unique to understand. Okay, let's say the kind of spendings that they have, the kind of interests that they have in life, it might not make a lot of logical sense to you. Okay, so if let's say you have Venus, you are a man and you have Venus in the 12th house, you can actually attract a partner who can somewhere be obsessed with certain things. Maybe they have this like, let's just take an example. They have this hobby of collecting um, some gems, okay, some jewels, and it might just make you question that how is it logical, or how is it like from a rational point of view, how is it logical? So some of the expenditure, some of the spendings that your partner can have can be a little oblivious, or can be a little questionable from a logical standpoint. Actually also can give you a partner with whom you have a lot of bed pleasures. Okay, a lot of bed pleasures, who enjoys the idea of bed pleasures. Especially with Venus in the 12th house, it's always better to discuss your problems with your partner in bed. The more you have the conversations in bed, the more you spend time with your partner during the night, it's always better for your marriage. Okay. And traveling with your partner becomes very important. Take long distance travels with your partner. Okay. But sometimes after marriage, you see your ability to understand your expenditure or the ability to understand your budgeting gets a little difficult. Okay. And sometimes this can also give you, see, this actually Venus in the 12th house can actually give you a partner who's very devoted as well. Someone who's very devoted. But you might not always understand their devotion. Okay, let's say you get a partner who's very devoted to some divine power or some god. Okay, now of course, God, you can't see God in the 3D world. You can't see that divine power in the 3D physical world, but it's there, it exists, right? So your partner can be someone who has that ability to get connected to things which are not there in the 3D world. Your partner can be again a very, very good writer, someone who is a very good, someone who writes very well. They probably have the ability to think about certain things which not everyone can perceive. Okay. But then, yes, some spendings can be very different. Some spendings can be a bit questionable. And with Venus in the 12th house, spending time with partner becomes actually very important. Because, see, what happens is your marriage with Venus in the 12th house becomes, kind of like loosens. It kind of fades away because you're understanding the concept that 12th house is the house of losses. Okay. And no, with Venus in the 12th house, I do not mean that it shows divorce or whatever. It's simple that in order to stay in touch with your marriage, in order to keep your marriage intact, always spend time with your partner in bed. Especially, and it's not just about like in bed wherein I'm all, and not just like in bed wherein only focusing on sexual or the physical intimacy, though that becomes a very important part with Venus in the 12th house. However, if there's any issue that comes in your life, okay, there's anything that you would want to talk with your partner, it's always better to talk during the night time, during the hours when you are in bed with them. And actually, again, you can actually get a partner who stays at a very far away location from you. Can also be someone who's from a different culture. So this can also become this, thing wherein uh, there can be certain things in their culture which you just do not seem to understand. Okay, so that also comes with it. But because you have your Venus in the 12th house, your concept of marriage can be very different. Okay, sometimes you can even question the concept of marriage. Okay, you can question the concept of marriage, you can question the concept of making a marriage work or just forcing two people to be together. All right. So there are certain ideas or certain ideologies that you might hold, which again, not everyone can understand. Venus in the 12th house, again, one thing that can happen is that you either give too much time to yourself or you give too much time to the partner. Okay. There is this balance that needs to be established. Okay. But that is not something which is being able to establish. Okay. Now, again, the one more thing that happens with Venus in the 12th house is that you sometimes neglect the problems of the marriage. Okay, now again, this is not going to be something which is going to be true for everyone. Okay, if let's say you have a seventh house that is active, let's say you have certain planets in the first and the seventh house, or let's say Jupiter is aspecting your seventh house, then it's going to be a different story. Now, with the Venus like this, you can settle with your partner in a foreign land or maybe a culture which is new to you. And especially with Venus actually here, you should consider uh, going overseas with your partner. You should consider, taking overseas trips with your partner. Taking trips with your partner that is to a distant land, to a different culture. And I've seen people with Venus in the 12th house in D9 Navamsha, they can go for certain beauty treatments, which again would not make a lot of logical sense. Like all of these beauty treatments these days that are going on, wherein, I don't know, you get injected some things in your skin, and then it would not make you look old in your old age. I don't know, all of these things. Now, there are different things in the market, and I feel with Venus in the 12th house, you and even your partner can get interested in that. In the 12th house, try not to neglect your partner. Okay, try not to neglect your partner, and even take care of their needs, because there can be an aspect to this Venus that maybe you get busy in your day-to-day life, or they get busy in their day-to-day life, and the result that happens is that you end up neglecting the other person. All right, because with Venus in the 12th house, bed pleasures become very important. So make sure that you are making the bed pleasures intact, because the more you make it intact, the more your marriage works smoothly. The more you take these trips with your partner, the long trips with your partner, the more you explore different cultures with your partner. That is how you make this marriage stable. And probably you both are attracted towards very unique cultures. Probably you are not, let's say you follow a particular religion, but now you are attracted to this culture, even though you do not have your ethnicity from that culture, but you are getting attracted to that culture, and you visit that culture and you feel so familiar to it, so you can make many online friends from that new culture. Okay, so your partner, again your wife or your husband, can actually be one of your long distance friends as well. Now can be one of your online friends as well, from a different culture. Probably you never saw their face. Okay, you never saw how they look like, but you just feel so connected to them. That is also something I've seen with Venus in the 12th house in your D9, that you attract partners from different cultures. You attract partners who have this artistic ability to them. Okay, like, I think culture plays a very big part in that. You're from a particular culture, but they're from a different culture, and that is actually what becomes the point of attraction, that their uniqueness, which you feel like a puzzle to solve. Okay, you feel like there is this unique quality about this person, and you feel so attracted towards them, and that is why you know um, you wish to be with them. So with Venus in the 12th house, you and your partner can actually have, uh, discussions and a lot of conversations about the mysteries of life, even occult, the mysteries of their culture and your culture. Probably you love to explore cultures together, and you want to know about their culture. You probably married someone who's from a different culture, and this is why you wish to know everything about them. You wish to know that what do they have to bring, and probably it's different for you, it's different for you, because you grew up in a different environment, and they grew up in a different environment, and you love listening to them, you love listening to what they felt like and what their culture is about. So there is this ability of, so there is this idea, there is this hint of new cultures, new traditions coming in your life through your partner, and you exploring them with a lot of passion. So that was about Venus in your D9 chart, guys. I hope this video was helpful to you, and I'll meet you in my next video. Bye bye. Thank you.